Hello. I'm sorry. I was queuing up a video and I forgot to loop the intro because I am a maroon. So, all right. How is everybody? I appreciate all of you guys being here. And today, we are going to talk about some interesting stuff. I see that Latinos are all the rage in certain quarters. And what do you know? I need to step out for a second. So you guys chat amongst yourselves, and I will be right back. Okay, guys, sorry about that. I'm back. So I want to start off by saying I am very proud of myself. And this shouldn't be something to brag about because it should be self-evident. Or it should be, good practice. I don't have to come on stream loaded in order to interact with people on the internet. I don't have to get drunk. I don't have to be under the influence of drugs. I can come on here clear-headed and I can say what I have to say without needing liquid courage or any other kind of courage, So, I wanted to get started today because Latinos have been on my mind recently. And first of all, let me just get started by saying this. It is absolutely no one's place to accept an apology on behalf of someone else. No one has that right. If someone offends someone else or someone attacks someone else, it is not then the right of a third party to come in and absolve that person of guilt or anything else. This is not the Catholic Church, okay? We can't just walk into a confessional and have the priest bless us and walk out and say, okay, well, that's taken care of. That's not how it works. And I find it incredibly arrogant when somebody steps up and is like, oh, okay, well, you made an apology, then that's okay, let's all move on. No. I wouldn't accept an apology on behalf of someone else. No. So, hang on. Now that we got that out of the way, I find it very interesting that certain content creators who like to position themselves as the great defenders of minorities have no problem defending their positions by being racist towards other minorities. You know, I find that very fascinating, that people give themselves permission to do that. I was watching a clip from a Hecate stream. She's having some sort of a conflict with Eerie Pepperoni. All right. I'm not interested in their conflict. I don't care why it started. I don't care where it goes from here. I don't give a damn what those two have to say to each other. It has nothing to do with me. But what I did find offensive and what I did find annoying was that she decided to go into this like broad mockery of Eerie Pepperoni speaking Spanish. And listen, it takes a lot to offend me, okay? And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that I take great umbrage at it. And I wouldn't have pointed it out if it hadn't been for the fact that she is the one who likes to go out and claim that she is the great defender of whatever. Or whatever, you know, tard she picks up in the gutter, you know? I just wanted everybody to make a note of that. And she didn't just do it once. She's done it several times. So when Fresh Garbage is like, and we're going to listen to some of it, when Fresh Garbage gets pissed off at Gata, who is Latina, and says, oh, that all that Gata cares about is the Latino community and doesn't care about anybody else. Well, I could say that about Hecate, and I could say that about Fresh Garbage also. Fresh Garbage, did you step up in Hecate's chat and say, maybe you shouldn't be talking that way? I mean, Hecate, why not go for a hat trick? Why not mock the way Chinese people speak? Why not mock the way Korean people speak? Why not do that? Go on, do your broadest, most racist impersonation of an Asian person speaking. Let's hear it. I'm here for it. I can't wait to see it. All right, so I'm going to start with this. I want to start where Gata, oh, there's Gata. All right, so I'm going to start with this, and we will listen to what Fresh Garbage had to say. And I promise you, we won't be here long on this channel. I suspect that you are right. I think that you're right about that. All right, so she decided to get into it with Gata. Now, let me make sure that I have my timestamp correct, because I actually did take notes. Oh, and if anybody's interested, Anna archived both the shitstorm stream where she went after No Name repeatedly, and the follow-up stream as well. That's on her Rumble channel. Anna, if you want to drop your Rumble channel in chat, please do so. All right, so is it on my screen? Now it is. Hi, Gata. All right, we're about to talk about you. All right, let's go.
Years and years of highly disliking him. But it doesn't matter, dude. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying she's not. You can't just say she is not. I'm not saying she's not. But can you not fucking see?
She's talking about me. They're talking about me being Latina. Because Fresh Garbage's obsession with race has driven her into a corner. I mean, she did grudgingly concede that I am Latina. But with caveats, okay? With caveats, because again, she sees everything through the prism of race. So let's continue.
That she went up there and said, like, oh, my great grandfather was tortured and went through all this stuff to get where I am. Saying she didn't go through all that.
Okay, no, it was my father. He wasn't tortured. He was arrested in that special way that Argentina had at the time. which is that you're not officially arrested, you're detained, which means that you have no legal rights. You are just locked up until they decide to release you. It was my father, you moron. Okay. And I have something else to say to you now, too.
It doesn't matter what she looks. God, I don't know how to explain this.
No, you don't know how to explain it. You don't know how to explain it. And let me explain it to you. First of all, if you are going to say that my father's experiences, the experiences that forced him to flee Argentina, go to Europe, and then come here, have nothing to do with me, and that I didn't experience it, then why the fuck are you so hung up on slavery? Not modern day slavery, by the way. Not the slavery that is actually going on in the world in the present year. Not the slave markets in Libya, where sub-Saharan Africans are bought and sold. Not the kind of slavery that is practiced in the Gulf, where Pakistanis are exploited. Not bonded servitude in Pakistan. You don't care about that. You don't care about that. Not a single black person in the United States alive today was enslaved. Not one. So, if it applies to me, and it was my father, then it applies to the community that you are white knighting for. Now, has slavery had residual effects? Of course. Of course it has. But you can't say one thing without saying the other. Having a little bit of internal consistency would be a really, really good thing for you, I think. Oh. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, well, she was hammered, so I'm sure she did lose track of the stories.
She looks white as fuck.
Uh-huh.
She has lived a very comfortable life. She went to fucking Brown.
Oh, no. Why does she keep mentioning in this stream, by the way, that I went to Brown? Why is that sticking in her craw? Why? Do you think that my immigrant father pulled strings to get me into Brown? That didn't happen. I got in because I worked my ass off in high school. That's how I got into Brown. I wasn't a Vanderbilt. I wasn't a member of a royal family. I wasn't the child of a prominent person or a big donor or anything like that. I got in because I gave up a lot in high school to be able to achieve what I achieved. And for some reason, Fresh Garbage, that really sticks in your craw. And you think that you know the makeup of the student body at Brown? You think that there are kids at Brown who aren't the children of refugees, who aren't the children, who aren't super rich or super privileged? At least not when I was there. So, but keep going.
She looks white, despite, it doesn't matter what her background is. She looks white. She doesn't have an accent. She doesn't have a problem speaking English. Like there's nothing. She doesn't have those setbacks. Like she's, I don't know how to explain to people who are not willing to listen.
You know, it's interesting, Fresh Garbage, because my father spoke with an extremely heavy accent. Extremely heavy. So did my aunt, who had a third-grade education. But my aunt picked up a skill, which was sewing. And so when they came to the United States, she figured out a way to get a loan and open a boutique in Georgetown, which she eventually had to close because she was robbed at gunpoint so many times. And she finally said, "I've had enough." My father spoke with a very, very heavy accent. And shockingly enough, my father did not look like a white man. It's amazing, isn't it? My father was olive-skinned. You would not in a million years have guessed that my father was white. So, just FYI. And despite these problems, these issues that he had with the language, if you want to bring skin color into it, be my guest, he managed to make it. So, and believe me, white privilege did not, or whatever, lighter skin privilege did not prevent him from being detained by the Argentine military. So, I had a relative who went to school in Argentina who was white-skinned. And he was sent to Catholic school where he was made to march around a courtyard with his classmates with his arms crossed across his chest, repeating over and over again, "The Jews killed Christ, the Jews killed Christ." I'm telling you, the government of Argentina worked hand in glove with the Catholic Church. Now, this is way pre-Vatican II. Way pre-Vatican II. And in case you haven't noticed, there has been an outburst of anti-Semitism all across the Western world. And I am afraid in my own country. I know that you said that you were very proud of Canada because they voted in the guy that you voted for, who is a member of a political party that oversaw a 700% increase in hate crimes against Jews, where 70% of the hate crimes in Canada are focusing on Jews. So what exactly are you so proud of? You're proud that you voted for this man. Okay. All right. I'll let you have that.
She does not have the problems that her ancestors or like whatever did. She doesn't. She's very fortunate. And the fact that she knows what her ancestors went through to get her to where she is, and she can still sit there beside Negz shitting on black people.
What the fuck does that have to do with me? What does the black community have to do with me and what they're going through? And what do my ancestors have to do with this? Yeah, it's true. They brought me here. Or I was born here. I'm the only member of my family who was born in the United States. Which is great. It was my hard work that got me into the universities. It was my hard work that allowed me to pursue a career in journalism in Washington, D.C. And it was my ability to withstand a lot of abuse in the workplace that enabled me to stick in that profession for 30 years. My father, my mother, my grandparents, nobody had anything to do with that. That was me. I worked hard. I pulled myself up by my bootstraps. You know? So instead of sitting on the internet snidely remarking on where somebody else went to college, I actually achieved things in my life. And that was by virtue of my hard work. Okay?
With fucking grandchildren who are... Dude, slavery is not that old.
Slavery ended in 1865. 1865. And I'm sure that if I brought up the Holocaust, you'd probably find that very boring. The Holocaust ended in 1945. And all the bullshit continues. Every generation, the bullshit continues. And I'm feeling that now. I'm feeling it. I'm sitting here hiding in Indiana from the sorts of people that I'm guessing you support. But let's continue.
He says like hundreds of years. It's not that long. It's not that long.
Yeah,
and
it
there's
is.
years and years and decades of repercussions from that shit.
Okay.
Sorry, I just want to pop in real quick and say, what was I saying that is so wrong?
All of it. All of it. You seem to think that just because I was born with white skin, that I was handed a golden ticket. You seem to think that because I was born with white skin, that every single door open to me. I assure you that that is not correct. As a matter of fact, I told a story that I don't know if you were paying attention to, but I interviewed for a job that required Spanish, fluent Spanish. And the guy who got the job was brown skinned and he had a last name ending in EZ, and he didn't speak a word of Spanish. He was hired over me because nobody ever bothered to ask him if he spoke the language. And that is my first language. So, I'm just saying, you think that it's such an easy ride? Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
What? Sounds like I'm jealous of DC.
Yeah, it does.
For what? For why? How am I jealous of DC? Okay, but that's hilarious. No. She got to where she is and worked really hard. Great. Good for her.
The resentment.
That's fine. I understand very clearly now. And I love all the trolls flooding my comments right now.
Really? I don't think so. I think you hate it. You are a very insecure woman. That annoying little giggle that you have, the way that you have to sit there for several seconds to gather your thoughts, the way that you are so thin-skinned, the way that you think everybody's threatening you when they're not, the fact that you flipped out because No Name's husband called you Satan. No, I don't think you like it. You don't like criticism, and you definitely don't like people contradicting you, and you don't like trolls.
Y'all are just as dumb as the Klansmen that you so love. So you can keep liking them all you want. Not gonna stop you. You can still come in here. You can flood my chats with your shit. Not gonna stop you. Don't care.
You do care.
But I actually hadn't listened back to this stream since. And I'm still not seeing a problem with what I said. So if you can tell me what is so bad that I said, that'd be great. But
yeah, I'll tell you what's so bad about what you said, because I got through about half of it. And you were incessantly pocket watching. You were going after No Name nonstop. You said it was only a little bit. No, absolutely not. You wouldn't stop going after her and after her husband because he called you Satan. What a baby you are. What a thin-skinned, pathetic baby you are. You step into the octagon and somebody says something mean to you and you have to go crazy. But you have to put down the liquid courage down your throat before you proceed, right? Absolutely ridiculous.
But no, so far, I think I've been just avoiding listening back to my stream for nothing. Cause no, I still stand by it.
Good. If you still stand by your stream, then why do you keep on apologizing for it? You're so full of shit. You stand for nothing.
It's so fucking irritating. Do we not know Negz race baits? Do we not know Negz race baits and rage baits. That's his thing.
Bitch, you are consistently in the chat of one of the biggest race baiters in the community. And if you listen to this, Hecate, I would really appreciate it if you would provide a shred of evidence that Anna and Raven are racist or white supremacists, because I personally have grown extremely tired of that fucking talking point. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of hearing it. I'm sick of the accusations. I'm tired of you going in front of your audience and smearing people and lying about people. People that I know personally and people that I care about. So either you provide some fucking proof or you stop. And I know you're not going to. You've got to find something to fill up those 3 or 4 or 5 days or whatever it is that you're streaming.
Yeah.
When you're not fighting with Yato and dehumanizing him because he pointed out truthfully that you had said that SJAM is being trafficked, which is a lie. Okay? But let's continue.
We do. Do you? Because you support him. You fight for him in chats.
Yeah, and you keep on hopping on panel with him. Why do you keep on hopping on panel? If he and I are so repellent to you, if we stand for things that you are completely against, why the fuck do you keep on coming on panel? I can tell you that it'll be a cold day in hell before you ever see me on a panel of a content creator that I don't like, or that I don't respect, or that has views that I don't agree with. I will never do that. But here you come, all eagerly. Oh, you can't wait to get on panel. So I would love an answer to that question.
What is your thing here? Yeah, girl. Oh. Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, I
here's
just
Kate
like go live
Petty.
randomly. Yeah, I don't support it. Gata, for fuck's sake. Okay, well, Gata, I'm gonna need you to like pick a fucking lane.
Oh, pick a lane, huh? Weren't you just saying in one of your live streams that you can go wherever you want? You see, this is what I meant when I said that the creators who come out and say, you can go wherever you want, you can chat wherever you want, you can do whatever you want, they're all lying. All of them. Because they watch these other chats like a hawk, and then they take the opportunity, if you chat, or God forbid, if you donate, to drag you and call you out and shame you. So, you pick a lane, bitch. You pick a lane.
Because you can like support. You cannot pick and choose what is cool with racism. You can't be like, oh, being against blacks is fine, but no, talking about Latinas. Oh no, don't do that. Fuck off. Okay, do you know what I'm saying here, right?
Oh, so now if Gata or if I call out, let's say, racism against Latinos or anti-Semitism or something, what? We're not allowed to do that? We're not allowed to point out bigotry that is directed at our communities? Unless we do the whole we are the world approach? Okay. All right. So, in other words, you picked a lane and you've decided that all this bigotry that is being directed at other minority communities is A-okay. You're not going to get involved. And you're going to criticize the people who point that out. Got it.
Don't do that shit. You're all or nothing with racism, right?
Yes, Gata.
Or you can fuck off.
God, she hates being criticized. And that giggle.
What's going on? I don't know. We were watching Negz stuff.
Of
and
course
then
you were.
Getta came in, and now we're just we're talking. We're having a little chat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I'm not going to talk on things that I do not understand. Black people on the community as okay. Okay.
And it's funny because after she sobered up, she put up this community tab saying, you know, I'm not a white savior, whatever, blah, blah, blah. She stands for nothing. She stands for nothing. So, except for pocket watching, stalking other people's chats, and that's pretty much it.
Okay. I came.
Okay, I've had enough of her. All right, now we're going to move on. As you all may know, there's been a very controversial deportation case that is unfolded in the United States involving a man that his defenders have nicknamed the Maryland Man. Now, I have been watching this story unfold with increasing befuddlement. I don't understand what the problem is. The man was scheduled to be deported, and then he wasn't, and now he has been deported, and we've got politicians genuflecting before this man. And wouldn't you know that one of our favorite Latinos decided that he was going to have a thing or two to say about this case. So I thought that we might watch this video, and at a future date, maybe even tomorrow, we are going to hear some of his thoughts on another subject that is very, very controversial. We might even tack it onto the end of this stream. We'll see. We'll see whether my leg starts hurting and I have to remove myself to the couch. And by the way, Ty's channel is linked in the description. So let's go.
Allegedly grabbed her by the hair and dragged her that way. In one of those incidents in 2019, she said Kilmar allegedly grabbed her by the hair and dragged her that way out of their car onto the street.
All right, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm sick of his fat face. And I know I probably shouldn't say it that way, but I am so sick of seeing this person's fat, sloppy face on TV, on my phone, on my laptop. It's all about this fat ass and his fat ass girlfriend who I'm sick of
His
too.
wife.
Sorry, I believe that's his wife, or that's what they say. But I am so sick of him and his fat wife. I'm 100% fine if they're just both in El Salvador.
The Maryland Man.
A Maryland Man.
Maryland Man.
And I am tired of hearing the same things over and over. A Maryland man, a Maryland father. That is an El Salvadorian man that has been living illegally in Maryland, while occasionally, or at least at points, beating his wife.
That's right.
And I kept trying to get to the door basement to try to open the door, and then like he pushed me. So I saw a neighbor walking his dog, and I opened the door and I was like, help. And then when he heard me, like he grabbed me from my hair and then he slapped me. Even on Wednesday, he hit me like around like 3 a.m. He would just wake up and like hit me. Before I went to my daughter's birthday party, he slapped me 3 times. And then last week I did call the police. My sister called the police because he hit me in front of my sister.
The most
And that is the great hero that Senator Chris Van Hollen, to his eternal shame, is desperately trying to get back into the United States. Why, may I ask? Why? What is the urgency to bring this scumbag back into the country? I would love it if somebody would explain that to me. Because I'm not seeing the value of this man being brought back into the country. I'm just not getting it. So, let's continue.
recent, if you're not aware, is that in 2018, his baby mama's former baby daddy had sworn in an affidavit, actual legal document, that he was uncomfortable with his children being in her custody or in her care because her boyfriend at that time, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, was a gang member.
Oh, well. Yeah, imagine a father being concerned about the safety of his children under these circumstances. How unreasonable. But again, this is the guy that people are trying desperately to bring back to the United States. Have we turned into the UK? Are we now a country where we want like every undesirable and every criminal to stay in the country? Or that we're opening the door to bringing people like that in? Are you fucking kidding? Absolutely not. Let's continue.
An MS-13 El Salvadorian illegal alien criminal who is hiding in Maryland has been nothing short of despicable.
A federal judge in Louisiana who was appointed by President Trump said that he was concerned that there was, quote, no meaningful process.
I've heard if they deny him his due process, then they can deny anyone their due process. Well, if anybody's acting like him, they deserve to have their due process denied. I'll say it outright. Thank God for not respecting due process. Where were they respecting due process when they came into this country?
Correct.
Where was the due process in that situation? Seems like at those points, these people and their supporters don't mind when due process gets shucked. When it's illegals deciding just to come to this country and live here for years on end, and in a lot of cases leech off the system and commit crime, how many ways are these people supposed to piss on our rug before we're allowed to say, yeah, I don't think you're a good fit for this country?
Right.
What's the answer there? Bueller? All of these people are auditioning to be citizens of this country.
That's right.
All the way through, even after they've been naturalized. Everybody loves to talk about the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution. Well, the Constitution was written by and for white people. So if you ain't that, get out. Just play. I've gone too far, all right? I'm MAGA. I drank the Kool-Aid. Say whatever you want, but I'm only half joking. But the reason I joke that way is because I don't understand why we are trying to do all sorts of mental gymnastics to keep people in this country that not only do not belong here, but aren't good or doing good while they are here. And I really do feel if certain people are making problems in this country and they're not legal anyway, there's only a certain amount of due process that we need to extend to them, because this guy has already been given due process. It
That's
just
right.
wasn't due process as many times as they wanted and until they got the result that they wanted. That's what bothers me about this particular situation. If you look into it or you read into it, in 2019, they pulled him over in Tennessee and they suspected him of trafficking because all the signs lined up with trafficking. But ICE was too lazy or too busy. They said they didn't want to come do anything about it. So the cop went ahead and let them go. But it looked shady enough that they actually took note of it and had tried to get ICE involved. So when they say that he's never been convicted of anything here, yeah, I'm sure he's been very lucky. So I don't know why, again, Americans, Democrats specifically, are riding so hard for this guy. Is that...
I'm baffled too. I don't get it either. I absolutely do not get it. And by the way, there are a couple of things I want to mention here. That goes for green card holders as well. You know, all these people who are bitching and moaning about these scumbag agitators on the college campuses, who are violating the conditions of either their green card or their student visa, who are being rounded up. You don't understand how green cards work, do you? You really don't. It's called permanent residency. Permanent is not accurate. It is temporary. Your residency in the United States while on a green card is conditional. And there are certain conditions that have to be met, such as you don't break the law. Preferably, you don't promote terrorism on American streets. You don't harass, intimidate, beat up, or whatever Jewish students. There are a lot of things. I mean, seriously, I have seen cases where people who commit traffic violations, and I'm not even talking about vehicular homicide or anything like that, where they commit traffic violations that could result in, or that do result in prison terms of X amount of time, they get thrown out of the country for a traffic violation. Speeding, for example. And as a matter of fact, I know of cases where people have gotten green cards, and the first thing that the immigration lawyer says to them is, whatever you do, please be careful behind the wheel. Because traffic court is where green cards go to die. Traffic court. So miss me with all the gnashing of teeth.
That going to be a proud memory for you to talk to your kids about? Remember when we stood up for that gangbanger from MS-13 that was being taken out of the country? That was a good cause, right? That's the kind of stuff you want your children knowing that you stood behind when they were younger, right? That's showing them the right example. A man that has every sign that he's actually part of this particular gang, but for some reason, we can't do anything about it. We can't just get rid of him. We can't just be like, good riddance, glad you're gone. You needed to go anyway. We got to pretend it's a whole production. And I know when I talk about this, there will inevitably be people in my comments. They're like, well, look at your face and look at the number of tattoos you have. And if you get pulled over, you don't think that you're going to go to El Salvador? Well, that's why I went ahead and made sure that I had a real ID. One of the ones with the star, so it makes it even easier. And this isn't a paid sponsorship by...
And Ty Rivera is a citizen, by the way.
Real ID. I wish they would pay me. But I would not be offended if an officer were to ask me for identification because I am brown and I have tattoos and I fit a particular bill. Because the fact of the matter is that isn't happening to a lot of people. Has it happened so far? Yes, there was a poor young man in Tucson, Arizona.
I was just walking around in the city in Tucson.
During that stroll, Jose says he was approached by an officer questioning his legal status.
He said, where are you from? And I said, from New Mexico. Can you show me a birth certificate?
But he didn't have ID with him. That's when Jose found himself handcuffed and charged with illegally entering the United States.
Can I just point out the fact that there were a number of such cases when Obama was in office? ICE would do these raids on restaurant kitchens, because I don't know if this is still a practice. I'm guessing it probably is. But a lot of restaurants would hire undocumented workers to wash dishes or work in the kitchen in some capacity. And ICE, would go and they would raid these kitchens. And there were sweeps where American citizens or green card holders got swept up. Or there was another case I think it was in a 7-Eleven, where some guy got arrested by mistake, a guy who was an American citizen. It happens. It happens. When it happens, it's terrible, and it's a real mess to fix that problem. And it shouldn't be happening, but it does. It's human error, right? But again, I just want to keep on reminding people that Obama was nicknamed the Deporter-in-Chief. All those immigration lawyers who were so excited that Obama was elected and they thought, oh my God, look, he's going to grant amnesty, he's going to have these great programs. Absolutely not. The immigration courts were humming. They were working overtime. The jails were full of people who were waiting for their hearings or waiting to get, thrown on ICE air and flown somewhere else. So anybody who is acting like this is a new phenomenon has not been paying attention and doesn't know anything about recent history. Let's continue.
He ended up it's not funny, but he did spend 9 days in jail. There's going to be mistakes. If you're going to make an omelet, you got to break some eggs. That's all. And I know some people are going to get mad at me for saying this, but this is how tired of it I am. And also, this is how much I understand that if we're going to have a solution, then we are going to have to put up with a little bit of discomfort. And
I also want to point out, this is something that I meant to say earlier, but I want to say it now. One of the huge problems with, beliefs or philosophies like intersectionality is that there has been a huge mistake made by a lot of people of all races, that they look at a group of people, an ethnic group or whatever, and they assume that every single person, based on background, color of skin, common language, whatever, marches in lockstep based on their identity. That is completely and utterly false. No one is more supportive of deporting these people from the country, the lawbreakers, the gang members, the criminals, whatever, than other Latinos. The Latinos who have had to stand in line and wait their turn and go through the whole brutal punishing process of being admitted to the country. And that also extends to other immigrant groups. Anybody who has been through the agonizing process of getting a green card and then obtaining citizenship can be, not all, but most are extremely resentful of those who jump the fence, push their way to the front of the line, and are given all kinds of benefits or the benefit of the doubt and a lot of protection and people making excuses. No, absolutely not. So stop thinking of these groups as a block. Latinos do not all think the same way about this sort of thing. Now, you may dismiss my opinion because obviously I'm ghost white, right? So what the fuck do I know? Does this man look white to you? And so the sooner that we break away from assuming about what people stand for based on their identity, the better off we'll be when we all start treating each other as individuals. So let's continue.
And if that means an officer asking to see my ID because I do fit a particular bill and some things can be misread, I 100% accept all of this about myself, because what we're trying to do is get rid of a certain element that may or may not look like me. And so if I get asked for my ID, what I will say to the officer is, in a very loud voice, "Here you go, officer. Thank you for doing your job. You can never be too sure." What's up, everybody? Ty Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. I know I'm not supposed to be that mean about it, but I am just sick of both of their fat faces. And if you ask me,
I'm sorry, Gesundheit. Intersectionality is, it was a term that was basically, as far as I can remember, invented in academia, where different groups and their needs can intersect with one another based on, it's basically like the progressive stack, that women can team up with, other groups, that races, and you have to understand that all of this is based on the notion that within certain sexes and certain races, that there is a uniformity of thought. And in some cases, the needs of these groups will intersect. And so it is beneficial to form coalitions with other groups that are being persecuted or who are not being offered the same benefits as, let's say, the majority group. But again, the error is that they assume that people within those blocks all think exactly the same way. And that is completely false. It's completely false, and it has led to some really vile, utterly diseased coalition building, like in the UK, the coalition that formed in the mid 2010s between feminists, so-called, and Islamists, which is ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. Or indeed what we're seeing now with the whole Queers for Palestine movement. If you're queer in Palestine, your life expectancy can be measured in minutes. But these gay people come forward, or these queer people, most of whom are straight, by the way, will come forward and protest in favor of a group of people who would throw them off a rooftop in a nanosecond. Gaza is not known for being the most progressive environment for gay people or transgender people. So, let's continue.
Both can go to El Salvador and eat pupusas together until the day they die, or until he rots in a prison while she sits outside waiting for him. I don't care anymore. Put money on his books if you want, sister, but either go with him or get it together. You are a United States citizen. You don't have to have this fat back beating. Okay, I admit, I got carried away. I got angry. I found myself saying things in a way that I really meant, and you should never do that, especially on a public platform. But yeah, if you don't think you're better than that, then maybe you should go to El Salvador as well, though. Like, that's where I'm at on it with this one, because I'm so tired of people trying to defend these people and not at all paying attention to the fact that if the Democrats really did care about immigrants and really did care about doing what's right, what they would do is be fighting for the gay makeup artist that got put in the El Salvadorian prison, CCOT, when he's from Venezuela and he did come here legitimately seeking asylum. Or they could really be worried about the dreamers. How many dreamers do we have in this country that have been getting kicked down the road like a tin can for how many years now?
Oh my God, I am so glad that he said that. Absolutely. I don't know anything about the gay makeup artist, but I would put him at the front of the line. And the dreamers, my God, the dreamers. That is a group of people that I feel really sorry for. The people who were brought here as children by their parents, who had no say in the matter, but they're not here legally, and they face deportation to countries that they've never been to in many cases, or a country where they don't speak the language, and that is a terrible thing. I don't think that kids should be held responsible or should be punished because of the behavior of their parents. And the dreamers hold a very special place in my heart. And I wish somebody would come up with a solution for these kids. Because in pretty much every way, they're American. They're American kids. So I just hate it. And some of them are adults now. But it is heartbreaking, and I hate it. I hate the thought of them getting kicked out when they weren't the ones who made the decision to come into the country illegally.
But no, instead, they pick a El Salvadorian gang member. Never mind the fact that he should have been deported. Never mind the fact that he wasn't actually given asylum. They just said that they couldn't send him back to El Salvador. And he was given no bond at a point because, as BBC puts it, he was busted for loitering. But then if you do just a little bit of extra research, like I personally ended up finding an article on NBC News, so it's not even hidden, or some small publication that's putting this out.
Yeah, it's bad, Breeze. Unless they're granted amnesty, or unless they are given a pathway to citizenship. No, not even marriage can save them. Not even being sponsored for a job can save them. It's horrendous. And I hate it. I really hate it. It's incredibly unfair.
It's NBC News. But then I read on NBC News that the judge had confusion about why exactly him and the others that he arrested with, which two of the others were also MS-13, allegedly, which we have to use that, but that's not at all. None of this is alleged to me. It's just what it is. But when he was arrested in that Home Depot parking lot, the judge didn't want to give him bond because they said they had reason to believe that he was MS-13. MS-13 through reliable and credible sources, so they didn't want to release him on bond. And then another judge came in and backed that up. Then the article from NBC also said that they had found Abrego Garcia with just under an ounce of at the time that he got arrested at the Home Depot. And at the same time, I'm not going to act like him having a little bit of wacky tobacco is the worst thing in the world, but just short of an ounce is a lot of wacky tobacco. I've had ounces at points, but it is kind of a lot of wacky tobacco.
Yeah.
And it at the very least lets you know that he really didn't care too much about our laws and wasn't going out of his way to try to obey them, because he would have known that, especially being an immigrant, he shouldn't have had that. Then there's a point when BBC Verify talks about the fact that he was suspected of trafficking at one point. He was trafficking construction workers, or possibly they're not even construction workers. He's just trafficking people. Who knows? He could have been working as a coyote.
Yeah.
But when
Coyote.
BBC Verify mentions that, they're like, it was a right-wing publication. Does it matter? Is the information correct or not? I don't care where it comes from in that way. If you were telling the truth, I wouldn't be calling you out in a negative way.
Right.
The truth is the truth, whether you like it, I like it, they like it, anybody likes it. The truth is the truth. So how about you just give me the actual story and as much information as possible so I can figure out why they're holding up this Maryland father, this saint, this altar boy.
Right.
Why is he being held in an El Salvadorian prison with the worst kind of people when he's never done anything wrong? He was
Exactly.
loitering in a parking lot. Don't mention at all the fact that there was a murder investigation that they were also simultaneously looking into, that they had to ask him and his two other MS-13 friends about at the same time. But
You know, the media coverage of this story has been disgraceful. And it makes me very, very grateful that I no longer work in that profession. Honestly, I don't know when the media lost their minds. I don't know when that shift occurred. But we're in some very, very perilous times, you guys. And I think, honestly, I mean, it's sad because my aunt and my mother used to live in Maryland, and they voted for Chris Van Hollen, you know, and I had a lot of respect for Chris Van Hollen. But that stunt that he did, where he went down to El Salvador and sat there and, broke bread with that creep, I'm sorry, no. There are limits, okay? I don't know what the hell he was thinking, but in my view, it was a huge mistake.
don't mention that. No, why would you do that, BBC Verify? Who wants anybody having the real story or as much of the real story as they can possibly get and then making their own decision? Maybe the logical decision wouldn't be the decision you want people coming to, so you just have to paint it a particular way so that it looks like his rights are truly being violated. So it looks like he was a person that we might have wanted in this country. And they literally admit he came in illegally. It's like, cool, case closed.
Yeah, I
He's
would
here
think
illegally. It's time for him to go. He's deported. That's what it is. So at what point is it time for someone to just stop being a headache and go? And
Right.
I'm also tired of hearing the fact that he was deported in error, because the other thing is, their government in El Salvador also say that he's part of MS-13.
Oh, well.
So he needed to be deported. And if you don't believe me that it wasn't an error, ask White House Deputy Chief of Staff Stephen Miller.
Nobody was mistakenly deported anywhere. That's like the big fact that most of you have gotten wrong.
Ask Tom Homan.
I don't accept the term error in Abrego Garcia.
They'll both tell you he was supposed to be deported. He just wasn't supposed to go back to El Salvador. Where are we supposed to send him, though?
Right.
And maybe it is setting a good example for other illegals like him, that if you're doing stuff like that or you've done stuff like that, you should get out of here before you possibly get sent to El Salvador. And also hearing people say, well, the courts have told Donald Trump that he needs to do something to facilitate bringing him home.
We are going to keep fighting
There he
to
is, Chris
bring
Van Hollen.
Abrego Garcia home.
Kilmer should be returned home.
Well, first off, I have a problem with the term home. He is home. El Salvador is where he's from. That's home. And most recently, home is the prison in El Salvador, which is where he belongs, because El Salvador doesn't want him in the streets again. So deal with your consequences, big boy. Just like when they're saying, oh, well, he couldn't go back to El Salvador because he would have faced harm from the rival gang. Well, don't be a part of a gang, stupid.
How about
if
that?
you don't want a rival gang coming after you, then don't be a part of a gang. And stop complaining about what your family went through, because your gang ended up putting some other family through that exact same thing, and you know it. And I really wasn't even to talk about this subject, but I brought it up on a Carmelo Anthony video, and all I was saying was that the people that want to protest on the left need to be careful, because they've already gone rogue in the administration and started to take people, and they've got one guy in El Salvador that they're like, I can't get him. And the president of El Salvador is even like, yeah, I can't do anything about it either. And I was making a joke, and then I had several people in my comments like, he was a bad guy, but he was a bad guy, so he was a bad guy.
Yeah.
Which I half joke, but some of you, I know that's not my regular audience. That's like people that are new to the channel, because I wasn't saying he wasn't a bad guy. I was just using him as an example. The courts are telling the administration, you have to facilitate bringing this guy back. And they're like, sorry, no can do, bro. What do you think they're going to do to your ass if you do something stupid and illegal? It could lead to a serious consequences time. We'll see what happens with the Tesla protesters. But some of you got so upset with me, like I was trying to say this is a good guy and he deserved to be here, and they did it wrongfully, and I hadn't said any of that, and you're all flatlining in the comments. I know he was a bad guy, which, by the way, like, comment, and subscribe. I don't mind when you guys leave comments like that. I do laugh at them, but just the way they get so elevated in some cases where people feel like they have to let me know that this was a bad guy. I definitely know, and I wasn't going to talk about it, like I said, but when I made that, people started leaving those comments, and then people have asked me in the comments to talk about this, and since it's something that I do have experience with, because when I was younger, I truly did hang out with gangbangers. Like, that's the thing. So when they say certain things like, well, he's never admitted to being a part of the gang, a lot of gang members would never admit to being part of the gang. There are a lot of people as well that are proud to be from a gang and will tell the police or anybody else because that's just what it is for them. They have to deal with their consequences or whatever, but they're owning what it is they are and what it is they're doing. But I didn't even know I was hanging out with gangbangers at first, because I was semi-related to them, and since I was semi-related to them and I just moved to Phoenix, they were kind of my only friends. You know how a lot of times your family, if you have family, a particular place will be your friends, and that was kind of this situation. And so when I asked them, because I had been told by other people that they were part of a gang and they wore Raiders gear and they had all the signs of being a gang, like this guy Bulls, like same thing, every once in a while around or whatever. But I asked them outright, because guns around, I'm from a small town in Arizona, so guns around isn't even a bad thing or doesn't really mean a lot. I mean, yeah, it was rifles that I was used to in the town that I grew up in. Every once in a while somebody would have a handgun too. And so when I was told I was hanging out with gangbangers, I outright asked them, because that's how innocent and dumb I was, that I outright asked them if they were in a gang, and they said that they weren't in a gang. And I ended up finding out that they were in a gang when I was hanging out at a house party at one of their houses, and I ended up getting hit by a stray bullet, a ricochet, during a drive-by. And I was off to the gay bars right after that.
Yeah. I went to high school with some of the guys who were in the 8th and H crew. You can look them up. And then, a few years later, I ended up moving to 8th and I Street, 1 block away from Ground Zero of the 8th and H crew, where guys were slinging crack left, right, and center. And it's always a good idea to stay on the good side of these people, right? I mean, I didn't have a problem with them at all. Not a bit. But I watched my P's and Q's for obvious reasons. So, yeah. I mean, you grow up in certain areas and, or you live in certain areas and you're going to run into gangs. I will say that MS-13 is a particularly vicious, terrifying, brutal gang. And they have made a lot of inroads in Maryland in particular. And the first house that I bought was in Montgomery County, in a neighborhood that was called East Kensington, because Wheaton, which is where I actually lived, they drew some kind of a false, border to make it more appealing in terms of real estate. Wheaton was an MS-13 stronghold. And these people are fucking terrifying. Now, thank God I never ran across any of them. I would just go home, go to work, come home, go to work, and that's it. I wasn't wandering around in the areas where they congregated, but MS-13 is a terrifying, terrifying gang. So let's continue.
I was like, I'm not built for this gang life. Gay life is what I'm built for. No, but it was like, that was kind of a wake-up call for me or whatever. But I didn't know up until that point, and I had been hanging out with them for a couple of months. And so when they say that, he's never admitted to it, a lot of people don't admit to it.
That's
so
right.
that to me, again, means absolutely nothing. And if you want to know why my friends lied to me, because I did ask them, why didn't you just tell me that you guys were in a gang? Because again, I was stupid and naive, so that's the way I just talk to people asking gangbangers, why didn't you tell me, you guys? Like, that's how much of a geek I was, and I wasn't like, I didn't look like a geek or whatever, but that's how much I wasn't exposed to that life at all, like I said. And so when I asked them, they told me that it was because they didn't want their parents to find out. And since I was related to them, then I might have told their parents, and they didn't want me to snitch, so they didn't tell me. So if I have gangbangers that wouldn't snitch on themselves to me as their friend because they didn't want their parents to find out, you think that this guy wouldn't keep it a secret or never admit it because he doesn't want to leave his cushy spot in the United States?
Of course.
Can we talk sense, please? Can we at least try? And then they say stupid things like, well, they say that he was a part of the Western Clique, but the Western Clique is based in New York and he's never lived in New York. Have you never dealt with gangs on any level? Because I can tell you, every gang has some street or neighborhood that it reps or that's where it's based. Like, I remember when I was young, there was a particular gang that was the biggest gang in Arizona at that time, and they were claiming 35th Avenue. Not every member of that gang lived on 35th Ave. Some didn't even live in that part of town. And so how does it seem off to you that he could be part of a New York gang but not actually have lived in New York? Do you think New York doesn't need to do work in Maryland? Do you think they don't need a point guy in Maryland if they want to move something or if something needs to happen? How stupid are we? So I don't know exactly how much corroborating evidence we need in order to just be like, yeah, this guy is from MS-13. That's his gang. And it's unfortunate for him that he didn't take the hint and realize that he would not be a good candidate to stay in the United States with everything that he knows about himself and he knows about his history. If you ask...
Yeah, but I mean, we can even dismiss the MS-13 thing out of hand if people are really like drilling down into this MS-13 accusation. The guy entered the country illegally. He wasn't supposed to be here. So why are we even having this conversation? I'm not following. Let's continue.
Ask me, the fact that he beat his wife alone should have got him sent back.
I agree.
If you're an American citizen and you want to beat your wife, that's your right. Who am I to step on the rights of another American? I don't tell other men what to do in their houses. What is this, 1984? Some sort of police state? A man can't figure out how to discipline his wife. Don't get mad at me. And definitely don't beat your wife. This was not at all a PSA, and I'm not seriously saying that. I'm having a little bit of fun because sometimes all this shit does get a bit heavy. But honestly, beating your wife alone tells me that you're not in line with the American way of life. Ideally, in the United States, we do not beat our wives. And unfortunately, there are people from this country that beat their wives. That's something that we're going to have to deal with as far as our citizens go. And they deserve to deal with stiff penalties. But at the same time, nobody should be encouraging this woman to be that bitch that's going to be lying for the man that beat her. Because that's what she's doing now. When they ask you if you were actually afraid of your husband at the time you had to file a restraining order on him, and the best you can give is, my husband is still alive.
Were you in fear of your husband?
husband is alive. That's all I can say.
Oh, really? My husband is alive, that's all I can say. Oh, it is? Okay, sorry, guys. All right, let me turn him down a little bit. Yeah, I've been having some weird audio balance problems. Let's continue.
What are you talking about? Because if it gets to restraining order, that's a pretty serious place. I've been restraining order. So stop trying to downplay it and make excuses for the motherfucker that's whooping your ass. I'm beginning to see why you needed your ass whooped. There, I said it. I didn't want to have to say it. I didn't want to hold my earrings. Just joking, but not joking at the same time. Be smarter than that, girl. She got a GoFundMe. I think it raised $300,000. They said, take the money and run. I know you have to give lip service or else the gang will come after you. But if I were her in private, I'd be like, do not bring him back.
Can I just point out, and if I play the next video in this stream, I will keep on emphasizing this point. Can I just point out how tired I am of scumbags starting these GoFundMes or these Give, Send, Goes or whatever, and people donating like lunatics to people who do not deserve a dime. I'm sick of it. And then one person's Give, Send, Go does super, super well. A murderer, for example. You know, just picking a random example. A murderer. Somebody who kills somebody else in cold blood. Along comes some loudmouth bitch, and all of a sudden she's making out like a bandit for bad behavior. Now, she didn't kill anybody. What she did was not exactly cricket, if you know what I mean. But why are these people being rewarded for bad behavior? Everything from murder, like Luigi Mangione and Carmelo Anthony, to acting like a complete sped in a public park. Why? But don't worry, that woman in Minnesota, the kid's family also raised quite a bit of money, from my understanding, on Give, Send, Go. So, I'm just sick of it. I don't understand. Aren't we in economic hard times? Where is all this money coming from? And one fundraiser will do super well, and then somebody else will have a fundraiser, and people will donate to that one out of spite over the first it's maddening. Absolutely maddening. People collecting large sums of money that they do not deserve. It is infuriating. Let's continue.
You can stay over there. Last thing I need is him beating me again. Like, that's the way I would be if I were her. And I think the left, if they were really women's empowerment, would be like, girl, you'll be fine without him. That's right, you deserve that GoFundMe money because you're going to need to start your life on your own, and you're used to living with a gangbanger, and they usually do have money, so you're going to have to figure yourself out. But to me, women's empowerment would be like, girl, fuck him. This is his karma for beating you, is now he gets to be in an El Salvadorian prison, maybe get his ass beat a couple of times. When he comes out, he'll be a little more empathetic. Or is it sympathetic? But what I'm saying is, we do have enough reasons to know that he's not a good guy, and El Salvador does too, which to me is a good example of the president of El Salvador actually taking some accountability and being like, this one's our mess. This is our responsibility. We'll take it from here. But then the courts are like, bring him back. Now, could you imagine if that was a reverse situation? Could you imagine if El Salvador had one of our criminals, and then they got him, brought him back to us, and then said, hey, we need him after all? Why? So he can possibly end up our problem again? Because if you set him free after this, when we both already have him, or you technically have him now, but if you set him free on any level, who's to say that he's not going to make a run for it, and then he ends up being El Salvador's problem again somehow, like makes his way back? And stranger things have happened, so don't act like I'm being crazy. I mean, El Chapo once once pulled a disappearing act,
He
if
did.
you don't remember. And they were really high security. So you don't know what's going to happen if you decide to do it that way. And knowing the way the Democrats are, they're going to demand that he be able to go home with his wife while they run through the process. That's what they're going to try to do if anybody were to ever bring him back, which I really don't believe that President Trump or the president of El Salvador are going to let him come back. I really...
You know what? I got really depressed yesterday. Just thinking about where do we go from here, you know, in terms of politics and the parties and so on. And I see that AOC is out there stumping already, preparing for a presidential run, which is ridiculous, but, you know, stranger things have happened. And I was thinking to myself, who are the people in the Democratic Party who would be good candidates? Now, let me explain something to you. The fact that I am singling these people out as good candidates means that they don't have a prayer, okay? They don't stand a chance. But a girl can dream. So I've narrowed it down to 4 people. These are my picks. These are the people that I think can move the party forward and bring back some sanity. The first one is John Fetterman. The more people try to convince me that the man is crazy, the more convinced I am that he is the real deal. I love John Fetterman. He could give a single solitary fuck, and I appreciate that. I think that's a good quality. The second one is the Lieutenant Governor of New York, who has an amazing backstory, absolutely amazing backstory, who has been shut out by the governor of New York. I think that he's really good. I think his last name is Delgado. The third one is Richie Torres, who's a congressman, gay, who represents the Bronx. I have enormous respect for Richie Torres, and he's young, and I think that he would be a fantastic candidate for something. If not the presidency, then certainly the governor's mansion or the Senate. I have tremendous respect for him. And the fourth is someone that I ran across a couple of weeks ago, and I was going to feature him on my channel, and then I forgot. His name is Jonah Wheeler. He is a Gen Z state representative in New Hampshire. And this guy is the entire package. He's young, he's good looking, he's smart, and he made some very, very strong statements about, you know, defending women against the lunatic trans rights activists, which means that he's also brave. He's got guts. Look him up, Jonah Wheeler. The kid is going places. And I say kid because he's like 24 years old. But I have tremendous, tremendous respect for him. You need to see what this guy is like. You need to see the cut of his jib. He's incredible. So let's continue.
Really don't see that happening on any level, and there's really no reason they should. He's going to be deported if he comes back.
That's
so
right.
Why do we have to take the extra step of trying to talk to the president of El Salvador and saying, hey, can you bring us our/your criminal back, please? We're going to need to give him due process. And so, yeah, knowing everything is done and knowing
Well, that door is closed. The president of El Salvador has already said he's staying exactly where he is.
Salvador knows everything he's done. We're supposed to have President Trump negotiate with Bukele to bring him back. That makes total sense. 100%. That's what we're going to do. That's what I'm going to campaign for. And I don't understand why people are rallying around this type of person instead of just being like, yeah, that element does need to go. There are enough arrows pointing to the fact that this isn't a good person. You're in this country illegally. You're loitering. There's a investigation that they're really trying to do, which that's what I would imagine by the wording of what it said, was they probably didn't have enough reason to bring those 3 guys in to ask about that murder outright or make that their reason for picking them up. But then if they had the excuse of catching them loitering and were able to lock them up and give them the squeeze from there, that might have seemed like a better strategy to them. That would make sense to me, and I don't have a problem with that kind of police work, to tell you that.
But I don't understand why these politicians are expending so much political capital on this guy. This is the thing that doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, politicians have only so many hours in the day, and they only have so many issues that they can focus on at a time. And usually the way it works is the politician will figure out that there is some benefit to him or her by backing a certain issue. Either it garners votes or garners money in fundraising or whatever. I don't understand what benefit, what is to be gained by sticking your neck out for this individual. I don't get it. And I don't understand the point of creating this sort of fable around this man, the Maryland man, in order to legitimize the behavior of these politicians. It makes absolutely no sense to me, just from a political point of view.
The truth. I know some people will probably say something about violating rights or whatever else. These are MS-13 gang members. And I have lived in an MS-13 neighborhood. I lived there for 4 years.
Yep.
It was from 2013 to 2017. And it was not an MS-13 neighborhood. It was probably the MS-13, not to brag, not to flex. It's MacArthur Park, LA. And I literally was 1 block from MacArthur Park. There's these apartments on 6th and Westlake, and I was right there. MacArthur Park is on 6th and Alvarado, 1 block away. And I used to take my puppies for walks in MacArthur Park every single day. And it's one of the most dangerous neighborhoods in LA.
Yeah, it is.
But I was always walking my dogs in MacArthur Park during the day. You knew not to be in MacArthur Park after hours. After
That's
it got
right.
dark, you do not go into MacArthur Park. But I used to go every single day. Literally, it would be rare if we missed a day. And my dog, the little puppy, Bijou, a little Chihuahua, so cute, just passed away not too long ago, but let's not dwell. But she was my baby, but she had friends that were MS-13. That bitch was gang related. I'm glad she died technically, because I think Trump would have had some questions for her. They could have possibly taken my dog to see caught, because she legitimately had MS-13 friends, you know. I don't know why. Then they were the legit, like, you know, all the tattoos, and really, I like the whole time they'd be petting her, I'd be like, you're gonna get us killed, you crazy bitch.
Right.
But they would pet her, and I would stand a healthy distance back, because it really is, I joke, but it really is dangerous
Very
living in an
dangerous.
MS-13 neighborhood. And that's why I say you couldn't possibly say that you love immigrants, whether legal or illegal, and then want people like this that are part of MS-13, any part of MS-13, in any neighborhood that is inhabited by immigrants.
That's
Because
right.
while it may be dangerous to a degree to people like me and you, if you're an actual American, you have recourse. You can call the police. You can do something about
Right.
it if somebody from the gang is harassing you. If you're an immigrant and they decide that they want to tax your business, you're
Right.
getting your business taxed.
That's right.
Because most immigrants aren't going to feel comfortable calling the police, even if they've got certain things in order, and even if they're in a sanctuary city. That's just the way that it works.
That's true.
When you're living in that kind of neighborhood, those things happen all the time to immigrants. So if you're saying like, oh, I want these people to stick around because I love immigrants, you don't love immigrants if
No.
you want them around that kind of element. Because while they'll do things to us or try to do things to us occasionally, they know that there is a different consequence as opposed to when they're dealing with other immigrants. So
That's right. The shakedowns, the extortion, all of that. There have been a number of movies and documentaries made about the Chinese gangs and the way they put the squeeze on, or they used to, I don't know if they still do, but they put the squeeze on business owners in Chinatown, and how they're involved in human trafficking and all of that. So obviously it is not simply relegated to the Latino community. But yeah, I mean, absolutely. The first groups that these gangs target are their own. People in their own ethnic group, people in that circle. And so, yeah, I mean, if you really care about immigrants, you don't allow these gangs to operate without any repercussions.
They're really able to run the immigrant neighborhood, and they terrorize. Like if you
That's
look
right.
up MacArthur Park specifically, there's like videos that say like the most dangerous neighborhood in LA, things like that. Like that's how much of an MS-13 neighborhood that was. And so I know the reality of living in that kind of neighborhood, even if I don't live the reality while I'm in that neighborhood. Because
Right.
like I said, there's certain things that I would just see that didn't make sense or hear about, but they wouldn't involve me in it because I'm a United States citizen. So it is a little bit different.
Right.
But if you're able to ever actually see the way those things work, you know how terrible people like this are.
That's
So I
right.
don't really know on whose behalf this is supposed to be helpful, but I'm just sick of all of this shit,
Me
and
too.
everybody can 100% go back, and I don't care, and I'm not gonna have a heart about it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think about it down in the comments. If you want to see a video of me talking about Roger, our favorite mooch from TikTok,
No,
click the video
absolutely
on your
not.
screen. Other than that, this has been Ty Rivera.
Okay. So, all right, so that's that. However, we've got a little bit of time, right? You guys don't have anything better to do you? So, Ty Rivera uploaded a very, very spicy video today, which I watched, mostly. And I thought, what better way to get me canceled? Hey, Seth. Nice to see you. Thank you for becoming a member. I appreciate you. What better way to get me canceled and give people ammunition to call me a racist and, you know, drag me for filth than to play the following video for you? So, I hope you guys are all ready. I hope that you guys are positioning yourselves next to a fainting couch, because this video's a lot. I'm joking. It's not a lot. Well, it may be a lot for certain people, but we are going to watch Ty Rivera's video about what happened in Minnesota. Like I said, prepare. And I will sit here preparing for my cancellation. All right. The video is called $1 Million N-Bomb. Dear Black People, why Shiloh Hendricks hit the jackpot. Now, a number of people have made videos about this. Sargon of Akkad, a number of other people. And all of them are in agreement, but they all express their opinions in slightly different ways. And we are about to have a grown-up conversation. So only adults here, okay? If you're going to be a baby, if you're going to clutch pearls, this is not the portion of the stream for you. If you actually want to have an adult conversation about this topic, then, you know, you're very welcome to be here. Let's continue.
Okay, why don't you have the balls to say it right now again?
Did we just witness the $1 million N-bomb?
This woman right here called a 5-year-old black autistic little boy the N-word and said that that it was justified because he was acting like one.
Dear Black people, I'm going to hold your hand when I say this. Because of the things that happened with Austin Metcalf, nobody cares.
That is it in a nutshell. That is it in a nutshell. This woman would not have raised as much money as she did, or even a dime, had it not been for Carmelo Anthony. There is an absolute cause and effect going on here. And I'm sorry if that reality is harsh. I'm sorry if that upsets you. But that is a fact. So, let's continue.
Racist calls a black boy with autism the N-word several times. And you guys raised $250,000 for her?
As of recording this, she is up to $609,175. She set the goal at $1 million. I'll read you guys what she put in the GoFundMe. Hello, my name is Shiloh, and I have been put into a very dire situation. I recently had a kid steal from my 18-month-old son's diaper bag at a park. I called the kid out for what he was. Another man who we recently found out had a history with law enforcement proceeded to record me and follow me to my car. He then posted these videos online, which has caused my family and myself great turmoil. My social security number has been leaked. My address and phone number have been given out freely. My family members are being attacked. My eldest child may not be going back to school. Even where I exercise has been exposed. Planet Fitness, I can tell by looking at you. Let's not play. I am asking for your help to assist in protecting my family. I fear that we must relocate. I have 2 small children who do not deserve this. We have been threatened to the extreme by people online. Anything will help. We cannot and will not live in fear. Thank you. Some people say that she's acting like a victim, but at the same time, if she got doxxed, then she kind of is a victim of at least doxing. Do I think she's a complete victim? No. But at the same time, do I see why people decided to throw their support her way in light of what happened just recently with Carmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf? Because it's forced people to compare a person losing their life and their family never being able to see them again to a woman saying a bad word, and that young person who's 5 years old, according to reports, looks a little tall for a 5-year-old in the video, but you say 5 years old, we'll say 5 years old, but is 5 years old and that same day got to go home to his family. Right. So anyway, her Give, Send, Go, because she has it on Give, Send, Go, which was the same platform that Carmelo Anthony put his on, and he's currently at $521,678, so she's out fundraised him, which should be an indication for people of not that America's supporting racism, because I really don't see it that way. I think people are just tired of the racism that's being directed at white people, and I've told you guys already, I'm not going with the reverse racism. It's either racism or it's not. I agree. And a lot of what I'm seeing towards white people lately is racism.
Okay, I want to make it abundantly clear. I don't think any of these people deserve a dime. I am very sorry to hear about her problems. Okay? I'm sorry that her family is being put through this. However, I don't think that she deserved money for it. I don't agree with it. I certainly don't agree with lavishing a murderer with cash, whether it's Carmelo Anthony or Luigi Mangione. I don't agree with that. And I am sick of shitty behavior being rewarded with obscene amounts of money being sent into GoFundMes and Give, Send, Goes. I think that it is preposterous. Having said that, I'm afraid that I do understand why people are donating to this woman. It's out of spite. It's out of revenge. It is a giant FU to the Black community. Among the people donating, are there racists? I'm sure there are. I'm sure there are. Do they make up the majority of the donors? Are there really that many KKK members in the United States? No. I think that what we're seeing now is a real fault line in American society. And that's what this woman raising all this money represents. But to write it off simply as just, oh my God, all these racists are donating to her. It's not that simple. And to dismiss it out of hand that way, you are making a huge mistake. A huge mistake, because this woman's ability to raise money and Carmelo Anthony's ability to make money points to a really, really serious problem in this country. Very, very serious. And if we're not willing to have an honest conversation about it, we'll never fix it.
But what I found ironic was that a lot of Black people are trying to get Shiloh Hendrix's Give, Send, Go taken down. But they were mad when people were trying to get Carmelo Anthony's Give, Send, Go taken down. At the very least, if you weren't being hypocritical, you would let this person have her Give, Send, Go. You're just mad because you're finding out through this Give, Send, Go that maybe you don't have the support you thought you had. Maybe you don't have the leverage or the sway that you thought you had.
Right.
What's up, everybody? Rivera here, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world. All right, you guys. So apparently that may be the $1 million N-bomb. And I think that there is a lesson to be learned here. And for anybody that's going to try to call me names or say that I'm racist or I shouldn't speak on black issues, keep in mind that if you watch this channel regularly, you've heard me talk about LGBT people. You've heard me talk about Latinos. You've heard me talk about the fat community. So when your number's up, your number's up. And today it just happens to be you, black people. And I know some people are going to be like, but that white woman called that black boy the N-word and he's on the spectrum. Who isn't on the spectrum lately? Everybody is autistic nowadays. Nobody is ever just ill-behaved. Nobody is ever just socially maladjusted. Everybody is autistic. And unless you're diagnosed autistic, you're not autistic. That's what I'm going to say. Because we just had Amanda Seales not too long ago, who people look at as a representative of the black community, or a fair amount of people do. And she literally said that she was diagnosed autistic. And then she comes out a couple days later when she's really pressed on it and says she wasn't actually diagnosed autistic. So at some point,
I have no idea who Amanda Seales is. If anybody knows, please post it in chat.
Just becomes a matter of black people are going to have to hold themselves to the same standard that they're holding everybody else to. But as far as just white people in general, if you're wondering why they're over it, it's because immediately after the Austin Metcalf situation happened, people started saying that it was because Austin Metcalf had said the N-word. Never mind the fact that...
Okay, I never heard that. That was not a theory that I heard. But it doesn't surprise me if it did happen. And why then would you stab a kid in the heart? There is no excuse for it. None. Absolutely none. Let's continue.
That still hasn't come out in any reports yet, but that became the pass for this happening. And thank God in this situation, there was a random PDF file recording on the children's playground, and he decided to ask this woman to say it again after him saying it several times himself. And my thing would be, if that was such a traumatic experience for this child, why are you asking her to say it? And why are you yourself saying it? And whether you like it or not, when you record somebody and you tell somebody, hey, say it again, that's you challenging them to say it again. And people are tired of bowing down to that word. And people are also tired of bowing down to certain black people thinking that it's their place to tell everybody else what and who they are according to their standards what it is they think. And people have just said, okay, we're done with that.
That's right. That's exactly what people are saying. We're done with it. We're done with speech being policed. We are done with being accused of things that we did not do because of the color of our skin. And I include myself in that category. I know that there are people on the hard right who would deny that I'm white because I'm Jewish. That's a whole other conversation. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, right? And a lot of people, white people in the country, have been fed the fuck up since George Floyd. Fed up. Fed up with the absolute clown show of the mayor of Minneapolis kneeling in front of that absurd gold coffin. Fed up with seeing politicians in Washington with kente cloths around their necks, kneeling. We're sick of it. It was all a farce. All of it was a farce. And then to add to that experience and that ridiculous visual, we then saw cities burning down and businesses being destroyed. And it's enough now. It's enough with the language policing and the policing of everything, every aspect of our lives, which is viewed through the prism of race, which is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. The stereotyping, the demands being made. No. Listen, Asians got fed up with it a while ago, which is why they brought that affirmative action lawsuit that ended up in the Supreme Court that ended up wiping out affirmative action. Asians have had enough of being treated differently in the college admissions process when they are superb students, for example, or they've got fantastic accomplishments that they've made in high school or even junior high school, when they have flawless transcripts. I mean, that kid in California who was rejected from 16 universities, 16. Every single school that he applied to, he was rejected from. And this is a kid who invented an app when he was still in junior high or high school. And so instead of going to college, Google saw his story and offered him a job, which is amazing. And congratulations to him. Why does a kid with that level of excellence get rejected from every university he applied to? And his father is going to sue the Board of Regents, as well he should. And they need to open up the admissions records, and they need to take a look at what it was about his son that turned off these universities, why it is that the son was considered to be ineligible to be admitted to these colleges. People are fed the fuck up. Now, does that mean then that it is reasonable to donate to this woman? Absolutely not. I would not give her a penny. But these donations are being driven by rage, resentment, and it's almost like, you know, you shake a bottle of soda and you take the cap off and it explodes. That's what's happening. And this is where we are now.
That part is over. You had your moment. You abused it. That's why when people get mad at me for comparing the black activist to the trans activist, you have to understand that really I'm doing you a favor by saying, check yourselves before you wreck yourselves, because that's what's happening. It is turning into the exact same situation. Do you remember for a while there, trans could do no wrong,
right,
and we were all supposed to take anything they threw our way because they were trans. And now that started to happen with black people. Do you know how many times I've been called racist online by black people?
Same. I've been called racist online by black people too, without a shred of evidence, without a scintilla of evidence. My viewers have been called racist. My donors have been called racist. So I'm issuing a challenge. If you are going to call me a racist, you'd better come with some examples. And if Fresh Garbage ever hops on panel with Negz again, that is the first thing that I'm going to ask her. You know, not that she matters, but I want to know why it is that I'm being accused of that. Same thing with Hecate. Same thing with all these losers out there. I want proof. I don't give a shit if you call me that. I just want to know why it is that you're calling me that. I want you to show your work, in other words. And while you're at it, I want you to prove or show the proof that Anna and Raven are white supremacists and racists, because I'm getting really sick and tired of that fucking talking point too.
In the same comment, the same black person will tell me that I'm not from this country anyway, that I'm not a United States citizen, and they can't wait until I get deported. And they'll double, triple, quadruple down. So this, whether you like it or not, black people, is turning into your representation, and you're allowing it to. And I know my audience, for the most part, gets it. And I have plenty of black people that pay attention to my channel. But am I going to worry or curtail my speech because a couple of people might get mad? No. Am I going to accept that I'm racist because I expect and would hold black people to the same standard that I would hold anybody else to? No.
Exactly.
I think I would be racist if I were the opposite. I think I would be racist if I thought black people weren't capable of behaving like everybody else, weren't capable of not resorting to violence because somebody says a word you don't like. Because while I get it that that word does make people very upset, at the same time, I've seen people absolutely brutalized, jumped in some cases online. We've all seen the videos. Go to X if you don't believe me, the artist formerly known as Twitter. And you will see the justification in the caption is that the person said the N-word.
Right.
Okay, that can't be a get out of jail free card. Carmelo Anthony, unless something really comes out that's absolutely devastating, nobody is seeing that as acceptable.
No.
And the two are related in the way that people are being very clear. If you check out this person, Shiloh Hendricks's Give, Send, Go, you will see that there are people in the comments literally saying his name was Austin Metcalf,
Right.
or this is for Austin Metcalf.
Yeah, it's total payback. Now, sadly, they're donating to this woman who doesn't deserve the money, which is sad. These people would be better off donating to a good cause, but they've chosen to do this instead. I guess it's cathartic for people to donate to, creeps and murderers and people who behave in an antisocial way. Whatever. I find that to be very upsetting. But okay, let's continue.
Because what happened was Carmelo Anthony's family obviously was able to raise $500,000 because of the passing that was caused by Carmelo Anthony of Austin Metcalf.
Right.
Austin Metcalf's father has been swatted, the last time I heard, 3 times. Online, people were saying that his father was arrested for SA at a
Which is
point and
false.
charged with it. That turned out not to be true. None of the black outlets that were sharing that admitted it. It was taken down from several of them. It's still up in some places and some people still believe it. But you unalive a man's son, you besmirch his name, and then when he shows up, which he said he was there to pray with the mother of Carmelo Anthony, they ask him to leave, inform the police, and then claim he was disrespecting his son's memory.
I would, if I had a way to contact Jeff Metcalf. I know he's in mourning. I know that he is still dealing with the loss of his son. Hi, Ramona. Good to see you. I would ask Jeff Metcalf respectfully to stop. He needs to stop, okay? He has made so many overtures. He has tried so hard to make peace with the Anthony family. He has tried everything. It's not working. It's not working. The more he attempts to be a good Christian, and express a desire for forgiveness or whatever, or reach out to this family, the more he's swatted and the more he's abused. He needs to stop. It's enough. You made your point. Go home and grieve your son. But stop trying to reason with that family and stop trying to reason with internet mobs, because it's not going to work. And I say this for his own good, because again, it's not doing him any good.
By even showing up there. So at some point you have to understand that white people are going to get tired. White people aren't just going to continuously be blackmailed with white guilt, which is what it turned into. It really has turned into a situation where white people are supposed to constantly apologize for what and who they are, while black people are completely fine to constantly encourage each other and call it black excellence. And the NAACP has stepped in and said that they want the Rochester police to look into it because this happened in Rochester, Minnesota, and possibly charge this woman with.
Charge her with what? Charge her with what? There are no hate speech laws on the books. As a matter of fact, hate speech laws are a violation of the First Amendment. I know that this is something that's very difficult for, British and Canadian and others people to understand. We don't have hate speech laws in this country because of the First Amendment. Now, you may not like the outcome. You may not like all this, free speech flowing left and right. But that is the price that you pay to have a society where you can express yourself freely. You think the UK wouldn't want a First Amendment of its very own? Look at what they're going through now. It is horrendous. The people who are being dragged to jail because they're in WhatsApp groups or because they post something when they're angry on Twitter and delete it and now they're in jail for years, or post something indiscreet on Facebook and somebody calls the police. No. That is not the kind of society that I would want to live in. Absolutely not.
something, which I don't know what they would charge her with. I personally don't think that's going to go anywhere
No.
because we're in the United States where people do have free speech.
That's
But
right.
what they have to remember is that the activists are making it so a lot of people are just starting to get completely unsympathetic to it. And while there may be this idea on the black side of the internet, be that Twitter or Instagram or wherever you're at, that black people are running things, but that's not the way it works at all. Like if you notice at a lot of Black Lives Matter rallies or situations where they're protesting injustices toward black people, you'll notice that there are a lot of people that aren't black in those crowds.
That's right.
So if you get yourself to a point where you no longer have that support, things are going to start going real wonky real fast, which
Absolutely.
again is where I'll compare it to the trans community. And understand, if there's any black people that are mad at me right now for saying this, you can be mad. Just like everybody else gets mad when I say things that they don't like or they don't want to hear. But I'm going to tell you, because really I'm doing you a favor right now. Because what happened with the trans community, if you'll remember, is they had the support of women and other gays, LGBs, you can say.
Absolutely.
And then they started to think that they were bigger than everything around them. They lost everybody's support. Not everybody, but a lot of people's support. And now look at what's happening to the trans community. Do you think?
You know what? I think that that is such an amazing comparison. It's an amazing comparison. It's an excellent comparison. You know, you get the activists, they push too far, and you end up where we are today. You end up shooting yourself in the foot, and you end up shooting the community that you supposedly represent in the foot. It's a problem. It's a real problem.
Think that it's impossible for something like that to happen with the black community as well? Because it most definitely will. I can promise you it will. If everybody turns, imagine where you'll find yourselves. And tell me, honestly, if you think that you'll be able to sustain your own entire economy once you get canceled the way that you've been trying to cancel everything. Because that's turned into the thing with the black community. Anytime anybody says anything they don't like, you'll see it in the comments right away. It'll be like, oh, well, apparently we need to cancel this place. Black people are turning into Karens. That's what's happening. Is there are a lot of Blarins out there at this point that every time anything happens, it has to be attributable to race. It cannot ever be that a black person just didn't behave correctly or found themselves in a position where they were in the wrong. It always has to be attributable to their race and to some sort of injustice that's being thrust upon them and not something that they possibly had a hand in. And in this situation in particular, I do agree. This lady, Shiloh Hendricks, should not have talked that way to that 5-year-old child.
Yeah, we all
but once
agree.
somebody starts recording and tries to be like, say it again, and acts like you won't, am I gonna blame her for taking the challenge? Am I gonna act like that was anything other than a bad word choice? Because the way that I see it is in light of what happened with the Carmelo Anthony situation, plenty of black people were willing to excuse him unaliving another person.
That's right.
And plenty of people were willing to excuse that, knowing that Austin Metcalf will never see his family again. His family will never see him again. But then this kid gets called a word that a lot of black people use all the time themselves. And I'm tired of hearing the, well, when we do it, it's empowering. When we do it, we're reclaiming it. It's either something that people can't say or it's not. We can't have an equal society when there are certain words some people are allowed to say and those same words other people cannot say.
I agree. And honestly, I mean, I wouldn't use the word, but if somebody wants to, what do I care? And people are going to come to me and say, yeah, but you're not black. Okay. You think I don't have my own set of problems? My point is, I agree with him. I agree with him. So, listen, I have to put up with the indignity and the insult of fucking Kanye West walking around in a swastika t-shirt. I have to listen to Candace Owens blathering on with her conspiracy theories about Jews. I have to look at the anti-Semitism of Professor Griff and Ice Cube and Nick Cannon and so many others, and the Nation of Islam and the Black Hebrew Israelites. I have to listen to that garbage. I've been listening to it for years. And the race baiters, the anti-Semitism of Al Sharpton, of Jesse Jackson. You know? So miss me with this business of, oh my God, this word, it is so harmful. Maybe it is. I don't know. I'm not black. What the fuck do I know? But what I do know is that there has been a lot of abuse leveled at the Jewish community by members of the black community. Not all, obviously. You know, just like not everybody in the black community supports Carmelo Anthony. Far from it. But where is the complaints department that we go to? Where do we go to complain about the conspiracy theories and the violence and the bullshit that happened thanks to Al Sharpton and now thanks to these Free Palestine mobs targeting Jewish communities, you know, in the name of Palestine, going and beating up Hasidic Jews? Where are we supposed to complain to? I'm still looking for the answer.
That's not the way free speech works. If it's really that bad of a word, lead by example. And I'm the same way with gay slurs. When it comes to the F slur, I told you guys, originally I wanted to make my name on this platform America's favorite fag, but YouTube won't allow that.
No, they
but
won't.
do I have a problem when other people use that word? I don't care. I'm not going to pretend like, oh, it's so hateful when you do it. But when I do it, it's fine. When
Right.
it's me and my friends, it's cool, it's cute, it's fun. We're reclaiming it. We're taking back its power. It's stupid. And I'm tired of it. And a lot of people are tired of it. But anyway, we're going to go through some of these videos and I will always give my opinions and let you guys know what I think needs to happen in certain situations. Like, comment, and subscribe right now before I piss you off. We're on our way to 100,000 subscribers. We're currently at just over 80,000. Thank you all very much. But if you can subscribe and we can see how fast we can get to that 100,000, I really do appreciate it.
And you know what? If you wouldn't mind subscribing to my channel as well, Ty Rivera's channel is linked in the description. So he puts out great content. He really does. And he's worth your subscribe, you know, your subscription and turning the notification on. I really enjoy his channel.
But let's go through these videos and see really quick where I find the inconsistencies, and there will be some. First up, we're going to hear from a black Karen, probably Muslim. She's wrapped, so that tells me probably Muslim. But Blaren #1 coming right up.
A racist calls a black boy with autism the N-word several times, and you guys raised $250,000 for her?
Yeah, and a black kid killed a white kid in cold blood with, as far as we know, we haven't heard a single example of provocation, and the community raised $500,000 for him. I'm sorry, but if you're going to look at one, you have to look at the other, because that's what a lot of people are doing.
I am beyond disturbed. I am beyond, I can't even fathom. Did you see the comments?
Just really quick, I want to say, I don't care what disturbs you. You're wearing garb that tells me that you support people that completely hate what I am anyway. How could you support people that would likely launch me off a building?
Right.
How could you support that? And the truth is, I don't care. I'm not going to clutch my pearls about it, just like you shouldn't clutch your pearls about the way other people spend their money,
Right.
or what other people support. But I will just say, if this person didn't have that same energy with the Austin Metcalf situation, I don't really care how she feels now.
I agree. I totally agree. I totally agree. Did I not say 100% no money for Luigi Mangione, no money for Carmelo Anthony, no money for this woman? And by the way, the Kids family also launched a Give, Send, Go. And apparently they've raised quite a bit of money too. So don't feel too sorry for them. They're somehow going to recover. Let's continue.
White people should not be forced to live among monkeys.
Notice how she's falling apart. Where was this when Austin Metcalf was happening?
Exactly.
Can we stop, please, Blaren?
Black fragility is getting pretty tiring. Sometimes to be accurate, you have to use unpleasant speech.
Have we not heard similar things, though, in regards to white people from people of color? Was there not a best-selling book called White Fragility? So now when people mention black fragility, suddenly that's a bad thing?
And by the way, the comments, the celebratory comments on the Carmelo Anthony Give, Send, Go page were absolutely appalling. So Give, Send, Go had to disable comments under donations on both, on Shiloh Hendricks and on Carmelo Anthony's Give, Send, Go page. So let's continue.
Well, maybe black fragility needs to be talked about because it's becoming an actual thing. I've been told so many racist things by black people, and in some cases homophobic things. And I don't hold that against all black people, but at the same time, that has actually happened.
Yeah, I've had racist and anti-Semitic things said to me by black people and by their allies, their white saviors. And I mean, I don't really give a shit because honestly, I don't respect any of the people who have leveled these insults at me. But I made a note of it.
So am I supposed to pretend that that's not something that should be addressed?
White advocacy.
Shouldn't everybody have some sort of advocacy if that's what we're doing? There's black advocacy. There's LGBT advocacy.
I want to say that I'm shocked. But I'm not shocked. I'm angry. I'm angry because are you kidding me? Disregard everything that little black boy and the people around him had to deal with.
Okay, really though, what did he and the people around him really have to deal with? Other than a word that so many black people use in music, in speech, in comedy. You remember there was that situation that happened when Kramer from Seinfeld had that meltdown at the Laugh Factory.
Of course,
and
everybody
said the
remembers.
N-word a million times, and that was supposed to be a big deal. Do you know that immediately after that, Jamie Masada, the owner of the Laugh Factory and one of my mentors in comedy. Hey, Jamie, hope you're doing well, boo. But Jamie instated this policy where he was fining comedians for saying the N-word on stage.
Okay.
That was what was supposed to happen. But then they realized that the only people that were getting fined were the black comics because nobody else used the word. And it became a joke within the comedy community because everybody knew that that's the way it played out. And it was just like, okay. Like,
unexpected consequences, huh?
Guess that was a well-intentioned idea that didn't really work out the way that it was supposed to. And so, of course, Jamie dropped it and didn't fine the black comics for saying the N-word, but that's who uses the N-word the most. So why is it all of a sudden a thing when somebody else does it? That's what I don't get, and that's what I'll never get.
But let's protect this white woman. Let's protect the racists. Absolutely ridiculous. Can't even.
I'm going to be honest. I don't really know what this woman's clutching her pearls like that about. And I don't think that this woman understands that if this woman was completely doxxed like that, which one day I'll do a video about it, but I have a good friend in comedy. Her name's Leonarda, and she recently had an N-word controversy. Well, back during Super Bowl. And I plan to fully cover it at some point. I just want to figure out exactly how I want to do it to properly throw her under the bus. But no, I really love Leonarda. And when she had this controversy, there were literally black men in her comments, comedians, that were threatening her physical safety.
Wonderful.
Also, not too long ago, there's a comedian by the name of Christy Mayer that posted a joke on social media about a black pilot that she saw on a plane and said something about DEI. And a black comedian, a male comedian, well known, but I was disappointed to see him say that the mic wasn't the only thing that was going to drop the next time he saw her. And it's like, do you realize you're physically threatening a woman right now? For not even saying the N-word, just saying a DEI joke because she saw a black pilot. Like, can we stop, please? Can we
stop, please? Can we stop, please? Hey, Queen. Can we stop, please? The people I feel sorry for in this entire mess are people in the black community who are too afraid to say what they really think about this Carmelo Anthony thing. You know, I mean, I know that the black right-wingers have come out and they all have something to say. Everybody has something to say. but I feel very sorry for the sensible people in the Black community who were appalled by that murder, who are too afraid to say what they actually think. Because they don't want to be ostracized, they don't want to be doxxed, they don't want to be singled out. It's really a shame. Also, there's something else I wanted to point out, and that is that something that has gone unmentioned so far, that at least I haven't seen it mentioned, is that the kid and the two men in the park who were accompanying this child are Somali. And there has been a lot of tension between the Somali community and not just the white community, but basically the American community in Minnesota. And I'm not using this as an excuse. Please don't take it this way. But to not look at the anger or the concern that a lot of people have with the Somali community specifically in Minnesota is making a huge mistake. Again, I mean, there are so many stories about the Somali community in Minnesota and the resentment that goes both ways, by the way. And the criticisms that people have of the Somali community specifically. And I find it very interesting that nobody is pointing this out, because that would be an interesting angle to look at this story. Again, not justifying what she did. It's just taking a broader view of what is actually happening in that part of the United States.
We agree that not every instance of racial insensitivity should lead to physical violence,
Right.
and more importantly, excusable physical violence. Can we just agree that that shouldn't be an actual thing? Because
Right.
if we're going to start popping each other every time somebody gets offended, a lot of people are going to be getting popped regularly. And I don't think anybody's going to like living in that society.
I knew they were going to do this. I knew they were going to do this, y'all. I knew they were going to do this. And it's taking everything in me not to go crazy right now.
What did you know exactly that they were going to do?
Right.
Possibly let you guys have a taste of your own medicine? Is that what you knew that they were going to do? Because I don't understand what you're so, I knew they were going to do this. I knew they were going to do this. It's taking everything in me not to go crazy right now. Something tells me that you probably go crazy a couple of times a day, whether or not anything like this happens. You just strike me as the type.
This woman, this woman right here called a 5-year-old black autistic little boy the N-word and said that that it was justified because he was acting like one.
In all fairness, he was digging it up.
Oh, no, don't go there, Ty. Don't even think about it.
All right. I shouldn't joke that way in such an important situation, but...
Naughty man.
All right. Okay. This probably isn't the time for me to joke that way. But at the same time, he was digging in her purse. And just to be clear, I am not excusing her behavior or her using that word. I am not. But at the same time...
Oh, Rochester. I'm just going to let y'all know. There has been over $250,000 that have raised to give her money after she called a black autistic child the N-word.
And $500,000 were raised for a guy who killed another kid in cold blood. I'm sorry, but we're going to keep on circling back to that point. We're going to, because you know that these two Give, Send, Go accounts, they are connected. You would not have one without the other. So every time that anybody gets huffy about this woman in Minnesota, the response is going to be, well, what about this other account? What about a murderer being supported? What about the spokesman of the family raising Cain and, scattering gasoline all over and lighting a match? What about that? All those roads lead back to the Carmelo Anthony situation.
And I will repeat, $500,000 was raised for Carmelo Anthony
There you go.
after he unalived a white guy.
Right.
Unalived. Not just said a word, unalived.
Right.
people in the comment section on X justifying this behavior. I'm gonna put the video at the end of this at the end of this video. I'm gonna put the clip. Y'all, this is not okay. This is a 5-year-old child that's on the spectrum.
I don't really care that he's on the spectrum. And I'm not trying to be insensitive, but at the same time, if this child was digging in her diaper bag and she had to run and get him for it, which is what she says in the video, or she had to go after him to get her bag back from him, do we not see how that could cause some sort of frustration? And she talks about people are justifying this behavior, but then in this screenshot that she posted, there's one person saying black people are more racist than white people, bud. And then there's another person saying, correct, we support a black kid defending himself because your little white school shooters don't know how to keep their hands to themselves. So that's, of course, regarding Austin Metcalf.
Austin Metcalf was a school shooter? No. He wasn't a school shooter. So here we go, blaming the victim. How classy.
And Carmelo Anthony. And the thing I would have to say about that is nobody ever said Austin Metcalf was a school shooter. So I don't know why that would get brought up.
Nobody dig into your That little kid, you call him a The little child? Are you about to hit him? You chase him here?
He took my son's stuff.
So that gives you the right to call the child 5-year-old and the N-word.
See, she's saying he took my son's stuff. So should she not be upset? Or what exactly is the course of action supposed to be? This is where I'll be very honest and serious. And if there's any black people in the comments, let me know. Honestly, how are things supposed to be handled? Because it really has turned into a situation where if a white person goes to a black person's parents, the parents in a lot of cases will be hostile towards the white person and act like the white person is being a Karen. So that's not an option. If the white person calls the police, that is supposedly putting the life in danger of the black person. So that's not an option. Then if the white person doesn't talk to the person in a particular way, then they're getting canceled and they have to have their life ruined. So that's not an option. So maybe in certain cases, you're not realizing that you're leaving people no options but to completely crash out and just be like, the rest of the world can deal with it. I'm gonna say this and I don't care who feels what about it. And then you get guys like this guy that was accused of R-wording a person of 16.
That's the cameraman. People were asking why was there an alleged sex offender in a park with children? Well, because apparently he knows the boy's family and he brought the kids to the park. That's what he was doing there. He wasn't just lurking in the park the way some people have suggested. No, he was there with the child.
But then it says the allegations were dropped. So I don't know how that played out. But at the same time, this guy seems kind of like a creep and a weirdo. And I don't really know why nobody from the black community is talking about that when they started a rumor about Austin Metcalf's dad that he was accused of SA, even though that turned out not to be true. So it really is becoming a real overly hypocritical situation when it comes to certain black people, because you'll accuse somebody that didn't actually do anything of having done SA off of an internet rumor, but then you have somebody that actually was accused of something, but you don't really consider that person to be a thing, or you're not willing to call that person out. I'm not really noticing a lot of consistency.
It is my own business. You call him that little kid, you call him a
See, that beep was him saying the N-word. So I guess I'm not getting it.
That's what you're gonna call him. You know, that's the hate speech.
So my thing is, overall, I don't really see us coexisting as a society in any sort of harmonious way, with there being these double standards where a black person can unalive a white person and that's supposed to be excusable and fine. But then a white person says a word that you don't like, and then suddenly that's supposed to be the biggest thing in the world. But that,
yeah, it's a problem. It's a real problem. You know, I mean, those of us who spend any time on social media know that it's a problem. Anyway.
That's just where I'm at on it. Anyway, let me know what you guys think down below in the comments. If you want to see the video of me talking about Abrego Garcia and his fat wife and how I'm sick of both of their fat faces, click the video on your screen. Other than that, this has been Ty Rivera, the absolute best LGBTQ comedian in the world.
Okay, that was a really good video, and I'm glad that he made it because I was trying to figure out a way to address this issue. And I couldn't quite figure it out because, honestly, on the one hand, I didn't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And on the other hand, I thought, how could I not talk about it when I've talked about Carmelo Anthony and how it's obvious that these two give, send, goes are connected in a way. So I hate everything about this story. I hate everything about the Carmelo Anthony story. I hate everything about the Luigi Mangione story. I hate it. I hate it. I do not like to see shitty people or murderers rewarded for being shitty. I don't like to see people rewarded when they offer up absolutely nothing. I don't like it. I'm not a fan of that. And I'm also not a fan of dogpiling. I'm not a fan of false allegations and accusations directed at people by mobs and by race baiters. I'm not a fan of that either. I never have been. And yeah, I mean, if you want to point out hypocrisy, I'm sure as hell not a fan of that. But I hate it. And honestly, these two fundraising efforts, when they're looked at as like mirror reflections of each other, point to a really, really serious problem that we have in this country. A very serious problem. And nobody wants to discuss it rationally. Nobody wants to sit down like adults and have a conversation. Everybody's too busy yelling. Everybody is too busy tweeting. Everybody is too busy, with rapid fire accusations and insults and other stuff, and they're not taking a look at the bigger picture and how damaging this is to our society. All of it. Looking at people strictly through the prism of race has been a problem for a number of years. And I don't know how we fix it. I don't know, because people are becoming more and more tribal. And tribalism is not good. Tribalism doesn't work. But that's where we're headed. And I know that people want to blame Trump and they want... No. This was going on long before Trump came into office. And a lot of people have been sitting back and observing what's happening or what's been happening, and they're not happy about it, but they're too afraid to say anything, with good reason. I don't blame them. But anyway, all right, you guys, I am so glad that you guys showed up today. Thank you so much. And until next time, I will see you guys later. See you later. Have a good evening.